Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. This is not a regular episode. This is going to be a very simple, quick fire round. Me and Tim have both made our top 100 horror movies, and we are going to do this in 4 parts. This is part 1. This is going to be numbers 100 through 76 for both of us. The way this is going to work is we're going to alternate. One of us will give our 100, maybe a very quick fire explanation as to why that movie's on our list, and we're just going to go through them. So that is what we're going to do here right now. Tim, are you ready?
I am ready.
So Tim,
Yeah.
you're number 100.
Okay, so I know that you're going to instantly disagree with this one, but this might get the most backstory, so bear with me. But the reason why it's on my list is because it's the first horror movie I've ever seen, so despite it not being a great movie, I have a little bit of nostalgia for it. But my number 100 is Leprechaun.
I liked how you felt the need to do all the qualifiers before you told us what it was. Brace yourselves, because my number 100.
I knew if I just said it, you would have went, ugh. So I wanted to give a little.
I know I said this was going to be quick fire, but I have to bring this up. I've been rewatching Third Rock from the Sun because I've been in a John Lithgow mood, and there was an episode that I just watched where they were buying a new TV, and it was right at the time when DVD was starting to be a thing, and like, oh, we got a DVD, it's all digital, the resolution's so good, and then Tommy's girlfriend is like, yeah, but it's Leprechaun 2. And then they say, oh, look, there's a director's commentary where the director will talk about the film for Leprechaun 2. They say, oh, after the movie, you can watch the trailer. You're paying to watch the advert for Leprechaun 2. And I was laughing hysterically because A, I think those movies are bad, but B, because I know you like them. So
that's a pretty solid joke. Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily great movies, but again, I kind of love they're cheesy, but I think they're fun. And again, it's kind of my first little foray into the horror world, so it has a little special place in my heart.
My number 100 is Night of the Creeps.
Ooh, thrill me. That's a good choice.
Yeah, it's a super 80s movie. It's very fun. It's very bubbly. It's got bubbly characters, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. And plus, Tom Atkins is in it, and that's always a good thing with that.
Oh yeah,
wonderful mustache of his. Yeah. So there you go. 99.
99. And another movie I don't think is great, but a lot of fun. Freddy vs. Jason. It's basically a live action cartoon, and maybe not the most that you would want when those guys get together, but it is just a lot of fun to see them both on screen.
I think it delivers what it's supposed to. I think it does exactly what it needed to.
Yeah.
Fair. My number 99 is Blood Rage, which is a movie we have done in streams already. It is a really silly slasher movie from the 1980s about a set of twin brothers where when they're kids, one of them murders someone but then blames it on the twin, so the wrong twin goes to the mental hospital and breaks out years later. And when they're teenagers, the evil twin who's actually on the outside, all of his friends soon come to realise that he is actually a serial killer. It is one of those movies where the acting is pretty bad, it's over the top, and I love every second of it. It is glorious.
What I think is interesting, looking at the differences between our lists, is I bet you're going to see a lot of slashers on yours, and a lot more of like kind of, more supernatural, paranormal stuff on mine.
And shit like Leprechaun.
Hey, now watch it. So my 98, that's going to be Dagon, which is a Stuart Gordon movie. He does a lot of H.P. Lovecraft stuff. This is kind of loosely based over Shadow over Innsmouth, and I think it's a pretty cool, kind of fishy monster movie.
Points for Tim, because that's the first one on his list that I've not seen. So we should keep track of that, actually. That's a good idea. Let me get a wee notepad here. So that's one. You keep track of how many you've not seen, Tim.
Okay.
Right. Okay, my number 98 is God Told Me To.
Ooh, another one we did on the show.
This is another one we did in streams, yeah. This is an insane movie by Larry Cohen, which starts off one way, and it keeps taking these dramatic left turns in the plot, but every time it does, it commits to its new idea 110%. And like it starts off investigating this sniper who killed people. Why did he kill people? And then by the end of the movie, we have the second coming and a space vagina. So if you want something that's crazy, a little out there, and just commits to its ideas, God Told Me To is a wacky good time.
Yes, it is very crazy. I will attest to that. So far, I don't think there's anything I've vehemently disagreed with on your list, so that's good. This next one, my 97, I know is probably gonna get another big sigh from you.
It's the boy, isn't it? It's...
No. But if I were to say to you, it is probably the best video game movie, would you know what it is?
Silent Hill, maybe?
Yeah, I actually like the first Silent Hill movie. I don't think I think it gets a lot of shit, but I actually kind of like it. Maybe I haven't played Silent Hill a ton, so if that was like my favorite franchise, I might have more problems with it, but I think it's a pretty good movie.
I thought it started off okay, and then it, went where it went. Anyway, my 97, complete contrast. He has Silent Hill, a video game adaptation. I have The Haunting from 1963, the slow brooding black and white movie about, is this woman insane? Is there actually a ghost? Is that kind of thing going on? Very well acted, very slow burn, and a classic.
Emphasis on the slow. So, my...
The Shade. I didn't realize we'd be sparring as we go back and forth where we're making fun of each other's picks. Well noted, Tim. Well noted.
Yeah, like you've already made fun of half of my list.
Leprechaun, Tim. Leprechaun. Listen to yourself, man.
All right. Well, I think we're actually going to agree on the next one. Maybe my 96. Paranormal Activity 3. I actually think obviously there's found footage I'm not crazy about, but I like most of the Paranormal Activity movies, at least to a point, and I think the third one's probably the best of the series. I think there's actually some generally creepy moments and some cool stuff they managed to do with the found footage genre, so I actually dig it.
I like the first three to varying degrees. I don't like the ones after that to varying degrees.
I'd agree with that. Like, pretty much. What is there, 6 or 7 at this point?
6, I think, was the last one.
6. Yeah, so it's about half are good, half are eh.
I would agree 3 is the best one. It didn't make my list, but I would agree 3 is the best one. So that's cool. What are we on? 96. My number 96 is When a Stranger Calls. That is the original from 1979, not that. I've never seen the remake. Which is just a slight tangent here. It's kind of sad that for a lot of these movies as we go, we're going to have to specify, no, it's the original that we're talking about, not the remake. But this is a movie where you can fault it for maybe having a slower middle section as it becomes an investigation. But the opening where the babysitter gets the phone call and is tormented by the stalker, the killer on the other end of the phone, is fantastic. And then the ending, which all brings it back full circle years later, is also fantastic. It's really good stuff. It's basically, Scream has a lot to thank this movie for, on the idea of, phoning the victim when they're in the house alone. It's good stuff. I like it a lot.
Definitely. Okay, 95. I think it is important to point out that this is our top 100 favorite horror movies. It's not...
Okay.
We're not
Stinker incoming. Stinker incoming, right?
So I would be, again, I'm not going to go to bat and say this is a good movie, but the amount of joy it brings me, I cannot deny, and that is Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. Now, I could have picked the first one, which some people may say is a better movie, but why not pick 2? Because you pretty much get almost all the first one in the first 45 minutes is basically just a retelling.
Which is funny, because that's why I've not watched 2 yet, is because I've seen 1, I like 1, and I don't feel like the need to watch a movie that half of it's the same thing. I'll get to it at some point. I'm sure we'll do it. We'll probably end up doing it at Christmas, because why not? But
I mean, basically, you get...
It's garbage day!
Yeah. So you take all the best parts of the first movie, and then you add the I guess if there's such a thing as a perfect movie scene, it's probably the garbage day scene, and that's I cannot deny how much I like that, and it makes me happy.
My number 95 is Krampus, which is a recent entry, recent Christmas movie. Very kind of almost a spiritual successor to Gremlins in a lot of ways. A lot of inventive stuff. I love the snowy small town setting, the fact that it's a blizzard outside. It really feels like a movie that comes from the heart, and in the sense that it feels like it's a movie that could have been made in the 80s, where you have the family of characters, you have the kid who you care about. I like it. It's inventive, a lot of practical effects. Really
Wow.
enjoyable time.
That's so weird. Like, how crazy is it that we both picked a
Christmas movie,
movies?
95.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's
I never
very
thought of that.
So my 94 is a Stephen King adaptation, Children of the Corn. It's not the best King movie, but I think it's a fun little 80s movie. I think the first one is an actual legitimate pretty good movie, and again, I have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's something I watched a lot as a kid, and I think at this point it has like 38 sequels or something.
Hmm.
It's a pretty cool premise. A town of kids kill all the adults and then basically rule the town in this weird like cult that worships this thing they call He Who Walks Behind the Rose, and then this like couple rolls through the town and is attacked by children. It's great.
Linda Hamilton is the main
Yeah.
character, and she took on Terminators. Why not kids?
Exactly.
Almost the same.
Why not hillbilly kids?
My number 94, and this is actually one that moved up onto, because I've done the top 100 movies before for myself over the last couple of Octobers or so. This is one that's moved up into the top 100 based on a recent viewing.
Wow.
That is Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Ooh, interesting.
I kind of love this movie. And obviously we just did an episode on it like last month, so clearly you can go back and see my full thoughts. And everything we've not done in streams yet that's on these lists we'll probably do at some point. They're all on the cards eventually. But this is just the character. It's stupid. It's got stupid ideas, but it knows it's silly. It's got fun kills. It finally focused on Leatherface, like sort of primarily. Has some fun characters, and I just love where it goes in terms of like how it actually does something different with the franchise and not just the same old, let's rehash the dinner scene from the other 6 movies. So Texas Chainsaw 3D.
I agree 100%, and I surprisingly kind of wrote this movie off until we rewatched it and was like, wow, this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, if you want a dumb slasher movie, because they don't really make them anymore in the sort of way they used to, this is the closest I think that we've gotten recently to something like that.
So my 93, I was actually kind of surprised at how often this shows up, because this is not a series I really liked growing up, but I have found a lot of fondness for in the last couple of years. But my 93, Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Again, not a good movie, but I think a lot of fun and maybe has some of the funniest moments of the series.
I 8 didn't make my list, but 8 gets a lot of shit for being like this is where it really jumped the shark. This is where it ran out of steam. I have a blast with 8. I like it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a good movie, don't get me wrong,
No.
but I have fun with 8.
Yeah.
Come on, there's a scene in this movie where he punches someone's head off with his bare fist after the guy tries to be a boxer and tries to do all the.
If I have any complaints about it, it's that I enjoy the stuff in the city so much more, but that's kind of more just towards the end. I would have liked the full on like him really like just like killing people.
Oh, I
throughout the
think
city,
everyone would have. Yeah. Everyone would have. But that's what we got. Maybe we can actually get like a reboot of Jason Takes Manhattan and actually get the full on just him in a city the entire time. That'd be good.
I'd be
fun.
down for that.
93 for me is The Hills Have Eyes, the original 1977 film. This is a movie where it feels grimy, feels very down and dirty. It feels like they're in hell, the characters. They're attacked by these people who live out in these hills in the desert. And it's depraved. It's a revenge story because after they're attacked, like some of the guys have to go back out and try and fight back. It's kind of, Wes Craven had made Last House on the Left, which I think goes too far and wasn't quite, it was unbalanced. It was too on the villain side, and then the revenge was very quick, whereas here it felt a little bit more sort of evened out. but it does feel very grimy. It feels like you're watching this just tale of depravity, and it just it works. Actually, it's one of Wes Craven's better films. So
Yeah, and I feel like it doesn't get as much love as some of his other movies, but I think it's a very effective horror movie.
Mhm.
All right, so my 92, something I just saw for the first time last year, might have even been last Octoberthon, or if not, maybe around it, but Intruder.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, I actually like it quite a bit. It does some pretty interesting, I think, stuff with a slasher genre, and it's set in a grocery store, which is kind of a cool setting. You don't really see very often in horror movies, and yeah, just another one that I think is a lot of fun.
I agree with everything you just said. Do you know what I think is funny? We're actually, we're what, 8 in now, and there's still we've not doubled up any. There's not been any overlap at all yet. Which will happen eventually. It's going to happen. But it's funny how long we've went, and there's still not one where both of us have said it. My 92 is From Dusk Till Dawn, which is a fascinating little curious film, because it's kind of a movie of two halves, where the first half is more of a Tarantino thriller, and then they get to the strip club, and it becomes this vampire, like, balls to the wall, almost like a siege movie where they're trapped inside the building from the vampires. There's a lot of jokes. George Clooney and Tarantino, who's also in it, he plays his brother. They're great in the movie. It's very fun and energetic, and yeah, it's always a blast to watch. So.
Yeah, and Tom Savini has a gun for a dick.
Yes, he has a little gun that has 2 chambers, so it looks like balls. Yes, it's very, very, very impressive.
And his name is Sex Machine, so
that is.
All right. So I was kind of biting my tongue while you're talking about doubling up, because my 91 is Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Oh, what? You went higher than me. Oh my.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, for the reasons that you just said, it was. Rewatching it is a surprisingly, like, oh, this is pretty good, and it it does something that the other movies haven't done, which actually kind of makes the villain a hero that you want to root for, and it doesn't really pretend to be something that it's not. It doesn't try to be the grim, gritty, dark reboot or whatever. It's like, no, this is just a fun movie.
It's not trying to be cool. It's just trying to be fun, and that's okay. My number 91 is actually one we just did recently as well. In fact, this month, the Slumber Party Massacre.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, you said I'd have a lot of dumb slashers on my list, and yeah, there's a fair share. This one is just kind of in its simplicity. Like, it's got goofy characters who say stupid things. It's got a really simple setup where you've got the one house and then the other house across the street, and you've got this just shameless killer who's just wearing a denim jacket, and he's killing people with a drill. But there's actually some surprisingly effective moments, and it's a really easy watch. It's one of these things where every time I put it on, like, it's just easy to have it on, and I'm looking forward to seeing the sequels, which I've not seen yet. We're doing them later this month, so nice. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and like you've said before, it's really easy to sell to people just from the title. It's like, oh, what's this movie about? It's like, everything's in the title. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. If you like the title, you'll like the movie. It's that simple.
All right. So my 90, you knew it had to come eventually. Maybe a little lower than it should be, but I got to give it up for The Boy.
Oh no! It's not low enough, Tim.
No, you're right. I think it should be lower on the list.
It should be on the worst 100 list that we're doing next year. That's what it should be.
No, it's don't listen to some of these artsy fartsy pretentious reviewers. The Boy is a lot of fun. It's well acted, has a crazy ending that I really love, and I think it's a nice horror movie that I find myself thinking about at least once a day. It's that good.
Your entire list has lost all credibility. It's gone.
I'm sorry there's no space vaginas on my list.
You should be sorry. My number 90 is The Vagrant, which is a Bill Paxton movie in which he increasingly becomes concerned that this vagrant, this homeless man, across the street is lingering around too much, he gets so paranoid that he builds like a defense system around his house, and he's just concerned about this is this homeless man out to get him. That is what the movie's about. It's a fantastic performance with Bill Paxton. It's a super fun movie. I like it a lot.
I just jotted that down because that's I haven't seen that one. That's the first one of yours I haven't seen. So.
Yeah, again, is that one each? Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
One each. Yeah, 10 in. Oh.
Right. I can. That sounds really cool though. I love Bill Paxton, and so I'd actually be interested in watching that.
Yeah, rest in peace. I'm still getting over the fact that we lost him this year.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Was it really just this year?
Yeah, it was this year. There's been so many deaths. There's him, John Hurt, Harry Dean Stanton, the names this year. And obviously
just actors. I mean, the directors and.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Toby Hooper and George Romero. Like,
Jesus. Well, I can almost guarantee that you have not seen my number 89. I kind of like to describe this movie as if Evil Dead 2 took place in a Japanese high school. Of course, I'm talking about the classic Hiroko the Goblin. It's
You're right. I've not seen this one, Tim.
It's pretty cool. It's a Japanese horror movie, obviously. And it's kind of about there's this like kind of like a race of goblin creatures that live under this high school, and it's during some type of break or something where school's out, but this one of the goblins kind of awakens and runs throughout the school, and there's definitely some like creepy Japanese monsters in it, and a lot of cool like practical special effects. And it just reminds me of Evil Dead 2 in the way that the main character is kind of bumbly and clumsy, but also kind of badass and fighting these monsters, and there's a lot of gore, and I like it quite a bit.
My number 89 is Puppet Master 2.
Ooh, nice.
Now this was kind of like almost a democracy of like which one to pick, because I've seen the first 3 of the Puppet Master movies and I like all of them, but 2 is my favorite. 2 has the lead villain is a bit more defined, because we've got this sort of Invisible Man-esque guy in bandages and a hat and like sunglasses, and like I thought it had a bit. I liked the first one, but the second one's where it became something I really like. The third one's really good as well. The third one's this movie set in Nazi Germany. It's a really, like for a direct-to-video series, those Puppet Master movies are actually much better than they have any right to be.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 is a lot of fun.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it, but I remember almost nothing about the Puppet Master movies. Like, it's been a long time since I've seen it. I remember the puppets themselves, but like story-wise, I really don't remember much.
Yeah, I just two I think has at least compared to 1, has much better defined characters, better defined villain, and it really I enjoyed the first one, but the second one it dropped because the first one tries to be a bit more mysterious as to what's going on, what's the purpose, whereas the second one right from the start, no, we've got this maniacal villain, he's up to no good, let's have fun, and I have a lot of fun with Puppet Master 2.
Okay. So my number 88, another Japanese movie, and I might be mispronouncing it, but Nori or Norai, but it's I think Noroi, The Curse, which is a Japanese found footage movie. I think it came out either later 2000s or so. But it's pretty interesting. It's basically like this guy's kind of doing a documentary about like paranormal occurrences, and he kind of stumbles upon this like bigger kind of conspiracy and supernatural stuff that's going on, and there's a lot of cool stuff in it. Interesting story. And
I have not seen it, but I've been meaning to watch it. It's been on the to watch list for a while, so
I believe it just was put on Shudder as well.
It's on my radar, is what I'm saying. So that's 3 that I've not seen of yours now, including this one. My number 88 is another 2, Halloween 2. That is the 1981 sequel to the original film, not the Rob Zombie 2009 abomination. So Halloween 2, obviously not as good as the original, but it's a really solid slasher movie. It's kind of like Halloween after the slasher boom. Like, what is a Halloween movie after everyone started churning these out? And it's Michael Myers stalking through the hallways of a hospital. There's some fun kills. We have really fun setup. There's a really great scene when we spoke about this last October. There's a great scene at the end where, and this is not, we won't do spoilers per se, but this is just Michael Myers walks through a glass door without even like trying to smash it. He just walks through it and it breaks. It's glorious. So like Halloween 2, it's not as good as the first one, but it is a solid suspenseful slasher movie. There's some good sequences, some strong characters. Even if it isn't, obviously as perfect as the first movie is. So
no, I like Halloween 2 quite a bit. I like the idea of sequels that take place like literally right after the first.
The same night, yeah. It's like Halloween 1 and 2 all take place in the same night. It's kind of fascinating. So no, and the hospital as well is a pretty fun setting. So it's a fun location to set a slasher movie. Not that this is the only one that's ever done it, of course, but there you
go. So my number 87, another movie I think is a lot of fun. Return of the Living Dead 2. I actually really like the Return of the Living Dead series. It's funny. It's almost like a stark contrast to George Romero's Dead trilogy, where it's like the kind of lighter, funner version. That it doesn't try to deal with like heavy societal concepts. It's just like fun zombie kills. It kind of has this like kind of cool 80s punk rock motif to it that I enjoy it quite a bit.
I actually also like Return of the Living Dead 2 quite a bit. I don't have it on my list, but it's people tend to overlook it because they just like the first one. But I think just for a pretty simple little zombie movie set in a small suburban area, I kind of like it. So yeah, I'll give you some props for that. My number 87 is Slither, which is the James Gunn sort of alien kind of parasite movie, starring Nathan Fillion, who of course was on Firefly, which was also made by Joss Whedon, who did the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But it's got James Gunn's wit. It's really amusing. The characters are really likable, especially Fillion's sheriff character. Some of his one-liners as he's reacting to some of this grotesque alien monster stuff is pretty good. It's pretty laugh out loud in a really fun kind of like horror movie way. So I give this props.
It's funny because you said James Gunn's wit, but at first I thought you said James Gunn wet, which I feel like would also fit because it is like a very wet, slimy movie.
It is a very wet and slimy movie, but it's really solid, and the pace never lets up. And like I say, it's constantly like it's definitely not full on horror comedy, but it's definitely veering into it with how sort of wisecracking some of the heroes are and some of the moments to come up because of it. But no.
It also has Pam Beesly in it.
So it does. You're right. And we all like Jenna Fisher. She's the girl next door that we all wish was next door. Absolutely. Also, it's pretty crazy. It gets like overly grotesque at the end in a lot of ways. So.
So my 86 is a little movie called Maniac, the 2012 Elijah Wood version. A rare remake, which is actually pretty good. And I like the visual style of it. Like I haven't really seen I don't think many movies that have been this like first person view.
Yeah, it's a POV horror movie. You're in the killer's point of view for 99.9% of the movie.
Yeah, it's really interesting, very disturbing. Elijah Wood, I think, does like a great like creepy serial killer, and it's really cool.
My number 86 is Martyrs, which is a foreign movie. It's a French movie that is one of the most extreme films I've ever seen. I knew next to nothing going into this, and it's like at first you think it's just about someone who's kidnapped in a house, or someone does like a home invasion angle, and then it starts to unravel, and there's a lot more going on. There's something truly horrific that's happened to someone, and it goes to really extreme places. It's not for the squeamish. It's not for someone who doesn't like to feel uncomfortable. You will see some really Not like in a gory way, but just some really disturbing imagery in terms of like what you could do to a person in terms of torture. It's very
Yeah.
very dark in that sense, but it's super tightly made. It's super atmospheric. You're always into it, and there's some great moments of suspense when you realize what's going on. It has you by the balls the entire movie. It is really quite impressive.
This is a fantastic movie that I never want to watch again. It's if you haven't seen it, it's great. Like you said, best to go in not knowing anything about it. But yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, yeah, I probably won't have much of a desire to ever watch again.
Well, unfortunately for you, Tim, one day we're going to have to do it for the show. But
Alright.
other than that,
Well,
yes.
I'll brace myself. My 85 is like you had Halloween 2 a little earlier. I'm gonna do another horror sequel, which is Hellraiser 2. I'm a big fan of the Hellraiser franchise, at least the earlier ones, and I think the second one is a pretty decent sequel. Has a good plot, good characters, a lot of really cool special effects and gore, and I think this only the first two Hellraiser movies are really that good. It kind of quickly falls off the rails after that, but I think these first two are really decent horror movies.
My number 85 is The Final Girls, which, a recent movie, 2015. This is a horror comedy. It's basically the slasher movie version of Last Action Hero, where our characters are pulled inside a movie through some random supernatural occurrence. But they end up inside this fake slasher movie, and they have to try and figure out and work with the characters in the movie how to survive. And it sort of plays on all the tropes. There's actually a good heart to the movie, which I wasn't expecting about this. The main character, her mother was a slasher movie actress who died years ago, and she's in this movie where her mother's in the movie as a character. So there's a good heart about like sort of bonding with her mother in there as well. It's got a heart, it's got a lot of laughs, and it plays with a lot of slasher movie tropes. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I thought I'd like it because it seemed like my sort of, a fun idea that appealed to me, but I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it and how much I got out of the characters. So
It's really good. It's one of my favorite premises of the last couple of years. It's a really, really good idea. My 84 is a movie. Well, I'll say it first.
I hope it was a movie. That's kind of the point of this, Tim.
Oh, it's actually kind of weird. My 84 is a sandwich. Who would have guessed? No, it's a little movie called May. I think early 2000s, I believe, indie horror movie. It's just a very interesting kind of quirky story about this really strange, isolated girl that kind of just basically just doesn't want to be alone, wants to find companionship, but she has kind of weird obsessions with certain body parts and perfection. And I think it does some really cool, disturbing stuff and has a pretty great, crazy ending. And I actually like it a lot. I feel like maybe people might have overlooked it because it's kind of a smaller, horror movie, but I think it's pretty solid.
I have seen this one. It didn't leave the same impression on me. I thought it was okay when I seen it, but it's been a long time, admittedly. I seen it back when it was still new, so...
Yeah. I recently watched it, and I think it holds up. I think it's still pretty good.
My number 84 is actually another recent film, which I might get some flack for this one, but I actually think this is much better than what people say about it, and that is Unfriended.
Okay.
People write this one off because they hear the premise, and I did this as well. Let me make this clear. Before I seen this, I sort of wrote this off as being a stupid sort of twist on a found footage take, because the entire movie takes place on a computer screen. The idea is you're just watching this one girl's computer, and most of the movie is a Skype call. It's people on Skype, and then this supernatural force starts to mess with them, and that's kind of the premise. Now, that could be really stupid, but I actually think the movie's really smart. Now, I never want a sequel. I never want any more movies to do this. But I think this one movie actually plays with it in a really inventive way, where it uses what this girl is doing on her computer that the other characters can't see. Like, we see her Googling things, we see her checking Facebook notifications, we see her checking all these things, but all of them reveal parts of the story and the backstory as to what's going on. and all of them sort of inform her character. There's actually some really great moments later on where you think she's one way, but she'll say something to them, but then you'll see her type something else secretly to someone else, and it actually plays with all those little ideas. And like I say, I only did this once, and other than I would say that there's like the final like minute where there's like a sort of bullshit jump scare. I don't like. I hate that little last part of the ending. But otherwise, I think this is actually a very solid, inventive little horror movie. So I give it props.
Yeah, I think it has it's a lot better than it has any right to be. Yeah, because like hearing about the premise and stuff, you kind of write it off. But actually, yeah, not too bad. My 83 is a real weird movie, but a movie I like a lot, and that is The Brood, which is a David Cronenberg flick. Very interesting. If I remember correctly, I think he was writing it maybe around the time he was getting divorced, and there's like a basically weird like plot about it goes into a lot of stuff about like therapy and like weird stuff with kids that are kind of represented by these like little monsters that come and attack people. And it's
so there's some divorce subtext, is what you're saying. There's a lot of themes that play into like he's in a bad place at the time. Okay, I've not actually seen this one. This is the fourth that I've not seen on your list.
I actually think this would be out of the four that you haven't seen. I think this one might be the most intriguing to you.
Okay,
but, it's good. I'm a big Cronenberg fan though, so. But I like this one.
I'm very hit and miss with them. I feel like for every movie of his that I really like and love, there's one that I equally think is trash. So it's weird. But, you know, he makes a lot of movies that I do like. My number 83 is Terror Vision.
Ooh, I just watched that for the first time just yesterday, actually, I think.
Oh, fantastic. We'll do this at some point on the show, but Terror Vision is a movie where this family in the 80s get a new satellite dish that's fantastic, and it gets some channels from all over the globe. To get like hundreds and thousands of channels. Unfortunately, it's like struck by lightning, and this alien comes down through it and starts to like come through the TV and messes with them all. It is a super goofy, big, silly, slimy, like practical effect monster. It's got characters who are really like assholes. I remember the parents being like awful people, and the kids are trying to survive, and it's full on 80s silly, and I love every second of it. I cannot recommend Terror Vision enough for anyone who likes the sound of anything what I just said.
I would like a list of every movie that has a premise of something that basically like was ... and then got struck by lightning. And just
well, and this is the alien comes through the satellite dish through the TV. That's basically what happens. Hence the title Terror Vision. Interestingly enough, the Blu-ray of this is in a 2-pack with the video dead.
Yep.
Just for the record.
So my 82 is one that is actually already mentioned, but it's Krampus. Again, like you said earlier, a lot of fun. Harkens back to those kind of like Gremlins type of Christmas movie that, it maybe not the most horrific, but it's like a really like fun little monster movie, and I think does some generally like really cool things with it. And I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Like I said, I think that one benefits because it has this like they don't really make them like this anymore, so it feels like a treat to get something that just feels like this kind of movie.
Definitely.
My 82 is New Year's Evil, which is a slasher movie in which the killer is tormenting this TV host who's doing like a countdown to midnight show on the West Coast. And basically, every time it hits midnight in one of the time zones in the US, so when it hits the midnight in the East Coast, he kills someone and sends in a recording. And then he does it again for like, Central Time and so on. And it's like this hunt for the killer. But the murder scenes are all really interesting because it's this guy who's doing the killings. He has to somehow get a girl alone multiple times and like sort of achieve the kill. So we see him put on disguises and try and like chat a girl up at the bar or go into a hospital and chat up a nurse. Like there's all these things. And I just want to point out as well that I remember Tim thinking that he was actually travelling across the country so that he was doing it at midnight in each time zone. No, he's in LA the entire time. He's just doing it at the times that the midnights are happening in the other time zones. Just to make
In
that
my
clear.
yeah. In my defense, they didn't specifically state that, so
They didn't need to. It's physically impossible.
I would argue there's a lot of things in the movies we're talking about that's physically impossible, but hey, you know.
Shut up. You know what I meant. You know what I mean. Shut up. But Alan Muir's evil. Plus, he's also got like a voice changer. Before Scream had the voice changer, he has this big goofy one that makes him say, like, I'm evil.
Yeah, this one's not my favorite, but it is. I wouldn't argue with it being on a list. It is fun. My 81, actually, another one that's already been mentioned. The Hills Have Eyes. Again, talking about the original version. But yeah, like you said, very dirty, grimy movie, and really plays into that kind of like it's not really southern, but it feels kind of southern, like rednecky.
Yeah, this would play very well as a double feature with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it has that kind of same 70s grimy feel to it.
But yeah, really good. Certainly uncomfortable, but in a good way, in the way you kind of want like a horror movie to be. And I like it.
My 81 is a movie I watched for the first time last October, and that is Pieces.
Oh.
Which is a slasher movie that actually comes from, I believe, Italy, and it is full of really oddball characters. There's a lot of weird dialogue. There's things that don't quite make sense in that kind of weird giallo kind of way. But you have a killer who is, like, all the murder scenes with the chainsaws and the cutting people up, every single murder scene is absolutely fantastic to watch. They're all extremely entertaining, and it has a really balls out there ending. It's a slasher movie mixed with a giallo movie turned up to like 50. It's great stuff. In terms of giallo movies, it's probably, if it even counts as that, I'm not sure if it does, but it would probably be up there with my favorites of the subgenre.
This is one of like like one of my favorite movies to watch with friends. Like I mean, you can certainly watch it by yourself, that's fine, but I think this is a really, really fun movie to watch and kind of laugh along with, but also at the same time still being like a pretty good movie. Like, yeah, no, it is crazy, but
yeah, the killer stuff is great, and let's not forget some of the silly stuff where the lead detective actually kind of illegally employs one of the students of the college to help investigate the murders, because of course he is.
Oh, you mean the lead detective who's also a world famous tennis star?
Oh yes, I forgot about that. I forgot about that point. Very good. Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely.
So now I wrote this list. Last year we did our own countdown like through our Twitters and stuff. So the list I'm working off now is a slightly modified list from last year. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because my number 80 is something I actually just watched just yesterday.
Yesterday?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something that I've seen before, but I'm just bringing it up because when I rewatched it, I was like, holy crap, I like this a lot more. So actually, I should probably have it higher on the list. But my 80 is Vamp. We just talked about it a little earlier today. So if the review's not up, it should be soon. But I think we're both pretty big fans of this movie. It's a ton of fun, super 80s, looks really cool, and holds up really well.
Pink and green. That's all I'm saying. Pink and green. Well, pink and green. My number 80 is we're going back to a festive movie. It is Christmas Evil, which is a movie about a man who is psychotic and loves Christmas so much that he has Christmas decorations up in July, and he decides to take it upon himself to actually steal toys from the company that he works for and tries to give them out to kids. And anyone who gets in his way is killed in the process. And it even becomes public knowledge that there's a Santa going around who's dangerous. So there's a great scene where kids protect them from their parents because they don't want Santa to be killed. And I will say this as well. You will never see the ending of this movie coming. It is one of the most batshit insane endings I have ever seen in a movie. And I'd love
to see someone try to guess.
Yeah, I love the ending to this movie. It goes in such a weird place for the last scene. It is great. And it's genuinely got a good sort of creepy vibe to it throughout the movie. Like I remember when we watched this again for Screams that I'd forgotten like this actually does have a good kind of like sort of tone going through it. There's a good psychological kind of element to it as the movie goes on. But
Christmas movies is like one of my favorite horror subgenres. I like them quite a bit. My 79 is actually another remake, and that would be Evil Dead, the 2013 version. And yeah, this is Evil Dead's one of my favorite franchises of all time. I love all the movies, so the idea of a remake didn't sit well with me at first, but they did such a good job, and it's really well because it doesn't really try to be the first one. It does its own thing, and for that, I think it really works.
yeah, it's more of a reboot than a remake in the sense that I think the
Right.
smartest thing they did is they said, we're not going to have some other guy come in and play Ash. We're going to do new characters. We're going to just take the concept and do our own version of it. And they focused a lot on having really outrageous, great like gore and practical effects, and just get going nuts with that kind of stuff. And it ended up being really enjoyable as a result. So, my number 79 is Friday the 13th Part 3.
Ooh.
This is the one where he gets the mask, the hockey mask. This is the one where you've got this little sort of gang who try and torment the teenagers who are fixing up the place, and you've got the barn kill. It's the one that was originally in 3D, the old blue and red 3D, which means they're constantly poking things at the camera. And it's a blast. I like, it's not a great movie, of course, like some of the, because obviously there's been a real mix so far of like genuinely good movies, and then there's just like these really fun bad ones and stuff. This is not the strongest Friday the 13th, but it does have some really fun kills. It has likable characters. Like I think probably one of the most memorable characters in the entire franchise is in this one. The practical Joker, Shelley, with the curly hair. Like,
oh god.
Yeah, like you remember him. I tell you that name and I tell you who he is, and you're like, yeah, I do remember him. Like
Yeah, this one is a lot of fun. I like this one. It's not my favorite Friday, but yeah, it's really good and solid.
yeah, it's not my favorite either, but more on that later.
All right, so what are we up to? 78. Another one that's actually already been mentioned, but From Dusk Till Dawn.
Be original. My God, this is.
Well, I'm sorry that I have mine in the proper place.
I'm sorry I didn't knock things down because I had the boy to put on there.
But yeah, like you said, this is a really cool, fun movie. Yeah, and it's two different halves. It starts off as like a pretty gritty crime drama, and then quickly explodes into balls out crazy vampire stuff. A lot of fun kills, fun characters, and yeah, just a very, very enjoyable movie.
Cool. My 78 is Arachnophobia, which
Ooh,
is actually kind of a notable pick because it's kind of. I don't really consider this to be like the first horror movie I ever saw, but it kind of is in a weird way.
Oh.
I think I never really realized it was a horror movie until I was older, and then I was like, oh yeah, I guess that was the first, because I remember watching this a lot as a kid. It's kind of younger person friendly in a lot of ways because it's just spiders. It's not, it's a monster flick with spiders. It's fun, but it's you got Jeff Daniels in there. He's the lead. You got likable cast. John Goodman is this sort of crazy over the top exterminator. You've got like simple little things like the spider getting in the shoe and then someone putting the shoe on and just little creepy moments like that. It's really, really good stuff. I do have to make a complaint here though. My Blu-ray is they put out the Blu-ray with like the wrong transfer and it's like too bright.
Oh no.
And like I didn't know until much later, so I couldn't get a replacement, and so I have like a defective Blu-ray. It's really annoying, and it's the thought of spending more money in the same movie is really upsetting when it's a fault like that. It's really irritating, but it's a great movie, full of great moments.
Yeah, I'd like to watch this again. I've seen it, but as a kid, it's been forever. I definitely remember liking it though. So my 77 would actually be my favorite Friday the 13th, which is Part 6, Jason Lives.
Oh my!
I've mentioned this before. Like when it comes like with slashers and stuff, I kind of like the more crazy, goofy, cheesy, bombastic kind of ones. And to me, this is kind of like peak Jason. Like, I don't know, he's just crazy, balls to the wall, and I just have a lot of fun with it.
Cool. I think it's interesting because you said this is your favorite, so you had part 8, but you didn't have anything else other than part 6 above it. That's fascinating to me that 8's your second favorite, but
It's well, like I said, I didn't really grow up with Friday. I was more of a Nightmare guy, so heads up, you'll see some of those on the list.
spoilers.
I mean, you had to have known it was coming, but and so I only watched like most of the Fridays for the first time, like maybe 2 years ago or so. So it might be something where I might, given time with if I could rewatch it, which
They may
I
grow on you.
freaking can't because they won't put out a goddamn nice Blu-ray box set.
Well, you can. You just can't watch it in the preferred way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I like at this point, I'm like I can't
And
buy any more
by the way,
DVDs and
By the way, I have the Blu-ray box set that went out of print. It's glorious. I love it. I hug it every night.
my hope is that if they do end up making the new one, which I know they keep talking about, and it got pushed back this year, and if it does end up coming out, I really hope that they'll release a new version of the box set, because I do want to watch them again. But yeah, just kind of going off, like most of them only viewing the one time, it doesn't have as much resonance as a lot of the other movies on the list for me.
My number 77 is The Prowler, which 80s slasher movie. This is one that I remembered liking, but then when I watched it again a couple of years ago, I'd forgotten just how good the kills were. All the kills are so good. There's like there's like knives getting into the top of people's heads. There's pitchforks going through multiple people. There's like lots of good things. If I have to complain about it, I'd say the killer's look's not that interesting. He's not got like a cool mask or anything like that. He's just kind of got an army helmet, and that's kind of him. But the kills are fantastic. The characters are likable enough. It's got that 80s vibe to it. But no, it's all about the kills. It's all about how fun they are, and it's got some really effective ones. So, Prowler.
Yeah, this was one I really wasn't that into when we did it. I don't know. I mean, it's fine, but it's not like I'd be like, oh man, you're insane for having it on here. But it really didn't do much for me. But
Yeah, besides you had the boys, so you can't say anything.
yeah, the boy's great. So the last one for this video, 76, going with Insidious Chapter 2.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I like the Insidious franchise quite a bit. I thought the second one was pretty cool. Another one that continues like right after the first one, and I thought set up like like a really good new characters, and it didn't feel like it was just treading the same old thing. Storyline was still really great, and yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, twisting and turning. I like Insidious Chapter 2 as well. It's probably the weakest of the three for me. I like part 3 more because it's a bit more self-contained, but no, I can't argue too much. So my last pick for this video, number 76, is The Conjuring 2. An interesting little correlation between those two picks, but Conjuring 2 for me, I like it more than Conjuring 1 because it's a bit more wacky, it's a bit more insane. Some really great moments. Everyone remembers the scene where he talks to the ghost through the little girl's mouth. Like, well, that sounds weird to say it that way, but you know what I mean? Like, the ghost, the demon's talking through the girl, but he's got his back turned to her. It's a great scene. You've got the crooked man, you've got the nun, you've got all these things, which, by the way, both of those are turning into movies of their own, so look forward to those. But it's balls to the walls, and again, much like I said earlier about, I'm forgetting what I said about now, but it's got a heart. Final Girls, I said about Final Girls, but there's a heart to it. Like the actual core relationship between the Warrens is actually kind of sweet in this one. Like I feel in the first movie, they're the main characters, but in the second one, they actually have their own little journey where you think maybe one of them can die, and like how will that affect the other one? Like there's a lot of talk about their history and about why they're together and what they mean to each other. And no, I like Conjuring 2 a lot. So
yeah. I'm a really, really big fan of this movie. I think they do a lot of really cool things, like just very inventive, shots. And with Conjuring and Insidious in general, I think some people kind of complain, like, oh, it's just like a lot of jump scares and stuff. But I feel like they're done very well. Like it doesn't feel cheap. Like that's what's wrong with a jump scare is usually it's cheap or undeserved. But I think there are legitimate ways to do it, and I don't really think and or maybe a few things here and there, but for the most part in these movies, everything feels like well deserved.
Also, remember in this movie, there's the little kid, because it's set in England, that's where the haunting is. The little kid in this movie is far too excited about his biscuits!
Of course.
But I also said that. I was saying that for months after we reviewed that the first time. But he's so excited about his biscuits that it's just these plain biscuits. I don't... Like, what the hell? And he puts them on a plate. It's just he's eating them on his own. I mean, I get it if you've got company, you put out a plate for for everyone, but he's on his own. Why waste a plate? You need to wash the plate. Okay, I'm going down a tangent. This is that was number 76. So that is the first quarter. That is 100 through 76 of our top 100s. We'll be doing this obviously every Tuesday. The final video, of course, will be on Halloween itself, so you can look forward to that. Of course, we've been doing lots of movie reviews for October. There's they're coming out. There's at least 4 a week, sometimes 5. So you can look forward to those. There's more coming this week. Let us know what you think of our picks so far in the comments. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Support the show. You get to vote on an episode of Screams every month for one of the tiers. There's commentaries in another tier. Lots of stuff to check out. But yeah, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff that helps us, because all of it does, and we appreciate it if you do. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching or listening. It always means something to us, I think, especially Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him over there. He's really, he likes the boy. He needs help. So thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you next time. Keep watching scary movies. Goodbye.